Tonight I'm travelling down the Ards Peninsula to a little place called Ballymartyr. And this is where our story begins. So this is a story in a Sweety tin.
And this is my Aunt Josephine, who in 1948 went out to see her uncle, who went to America but never returned, and it's the story of her and her flight out. So this seems to be the first postcard that John Pat, when he arrived in Chicago, sent to his brother in Ballymartyr, Portaferry. And if we look at the address, it was just posted J.H. Crangle, Portaferry, County Down, Ireland. And I say in 1948, her uncle had asked some of them to go out to see him in Chicago. Joey, being a teacher, had the 6 weeks off in the holidays, so then she decided to go out. And he had sent her the airline tickets to go. So these are the actual tickets from 1948 that Uncle John Pat had sent Josephine, and he had paid for the tickets in dollars. And we have the tickets to New York, then tickets from New York to Chicago, and then this will be a good one, the one with the excess luggage coming home. So what amazed me was the price of the tickets in 1948. So if you can tell me a return ticket from Shannon Airport in Ireland to New York, and then from New York to Shannon back again. So some of the paperwork that was in along with the tickets and that was a flight report, which I have here. So I'm going to hand over to ex-American pilot, Jim, who can explain more.
Okay. Well, this is a position report they would make as they go across the ocean. And in this case, they obviously sent it back to the passengers so they could see it also. So they're going towards Gander from Shannon. They're at 6,000 feet, and they're at 180 knots of airspeed, which would have been about normal for the airplane at that time. They decided to divert to Stephenville, another airport in Nova Scotia, which is where Gander is also, because of better weather there. And they'll refuel there before they head on to New York.
So Jim, what would the conditions been like in the plane at that time?
Well, the Constellation was a pretty new airplane in that time, and it was one of the first pressurized airplanes to go across the ocean, so it would be relatively comfortable. And the speed would be a lot different than today. Today, coming from Ireland to New York, would be about approximately 7 hours. On that ticket, it looks like it would have been 19 hours, which would have included a fuel stop in Canada to get to New York.
Amazing.
Yeah, and the plane would only have held about 60 or 70 people, versus today's, 200 or 300 people.
So engine-wise, was there many engines?
4 engines. They're reciprocating engines, petrol engines, and no jet engines on commercial airliners at that time.
Very good. Yeah. So arriving in New York, it was an internal flight from New York right over to Chicago. The price of that ticket was $87, and that was going back to New York again. So on arriving in Chicago, her uncle took her up round the lakes and up to West Buff. So Jim, what's the countryside like round there?
Well, West Bluff is a part of Mackinac Island, and it's a really nice holiday island generally. And West Bluff is an area on Mackinac Island that has a lot of old Victorian homes that were holiday homes for the well-off people. Mm. Nice area.
So Jim, we've another picture here of the copper country where they've taken her to. What is copper country?
Well, it's a peninsula on Lake Superior in the upper Michigan Peninsula that at one time was the world's leading copper mining area. And I'm sure there's still all the history of the copper mining that went on there, and I'm sure it's a real pretty area along Lake Superior too.
So it would have been a tourist attraction?
I would think so, yeah, I would think so.
So here then we have the last item, which was our excess luggage coming back from New York to Shannon, which was $51.84. So Jim, what was that in today's?
Well, I looked it up, tried to figure it out. It's about 438 pounds in today's money.
Sterling.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, expensive.
Yeah, it is.
So that's an interesting story, especially the travel back then. Airline travel was relatively new and not so common, so it was neat to see the tickets and how she traveled. What happened to her after she came back to Porter Ferry?
Well, Joey came back and continued her teaching, and for the last about 25 years she was principal in St Mary's Primary School on Mill Hill in Porter Ferry, and lived a full and lovely life.
Wow, that's nice. Did she ever go back to America?
No, she didn't, but she loved her trip, and never seen her uncle again, because he never came home either, and died in the 60s.
Yeah.
Now, thank you very much, Jim and Tony, for that little story. And early on in the story, Tony posed the question to you: how much do you think a return ticket from Shannon to New York was in 1948? Well, the price in US dollars in 1948 was $570. But today's equivalent of that in 2021 is £5,200. So very expensive to travel in those days. Now, when you're doing these little stories, sometimes you get tongue-tied and things don't work out. So I'll leave you with this here.
So on arriving in Chicago, her uncle took her up round the lakes and up to West Buff. Is that?
Go.
So her uncle then took her around the lakes here, right round here, and they went to a scenic viewpoint, West Buff. Jim, what?
Tony,
is that West Bluff?
Isn't it Bluff written there? Let me turn around to see.
It is called West Bluff.
Yeah, West Bluff.
Right.
Yeah. So that's okay. Right, we'll go again.
We have to New York, Chicago.
Yeah.
Then our Uncle John, say when you're ready.
I'm ready.
Then our Uncle John would have taken her around the lakes of Michigan. So I can't get
You're not helping.